for the second part of Volume 2 of Underrated Thrash Metal. I guess, like 2B. This is 2B. I underestimated my ability to ramble on and talk too much, I guess, as usual. So let's do like the second part of the second video. And I said in my previous, the first part of this video, that there was gonna be like two themes, and the first one was state of Illinois, and the second one was Switzerland, Swiss thrash. And as you can hear in the background, the glorious sounds of Carrion. Evil is there, and this is truly an underrated album. The only album by Carrion, as they were called Carrion. They later changed their name to Poltergeist, and went in a bit more generic thrash direction after. But this one is, I think it's from '86. I can't really remember. It doesn't say here on the cover, but I think it's from '86. And this is more, I know it's not pure thrash. There's quite a bit of speed metal influence in there as well. But I think it's thrash enough to be featured on this video. And as you can hear, it's like a really raw, super raw, thrashy, with those harsh German, almost German vocals, classical. I kind of like feel a connection with like Necronomicon, the German band, and a bit more speed metal though, but still two great bands. And this one I think quite a few have missed out on, and it's just amazing. Not much more to say, but if you like that, like really almost like proto-black speed thrash, really early, more classic sound, drawing influence from like Venom, obviously from the, and of course Celtic Frost being a Swiss band and all. So yeah. Oh yeah, and before I get to the next band, I'll just show you, this is what they became later, Poltergeist. This is the Depression, this is the album called, and here's a picture of the band as they were looking then. You can see the difference here quite a bit. In the style of how they looked and everything, but this is actually a good thrash album. Nothing spectacular or like super amazing, but it's really good. Actually, one of the songs, let's see, I think it's Writing on the Wall, yeah, the last song on the first album, on the A side, is actually one of the best thrash metal riffs. If I would do like a top 10 riff list, that song would be on that list, probably. So check them out as well. Not as good as Carrion, but still pretty good. And the next Swiss band is Excruciation, Last Judgement, and this is a very interesting band. This is only an EP, five-track EP, but it still makes quite the impression it made on me the first time I heard it. especially the last song called Mirror of Eternity is one of my all-time favorite metal songs of any genre, I would say, because they have a pretty unique sound, also a bit like Carrion. They are raw and like rough, and I guess that's like the Swiss sound in a way, very raw, of course, influenced by German bands, but yeah, still make it something of their own. And especially, as I said, the Mirror of Eternity is like, it's very hard to describe that song because it evokes a lot of like it's got a feeling of like a really existential darkness, like a void, kind of like really atmospheric and really dark. The singer sings like in a very like special. He doesn't like sings in a certain way on that particular track. And I know this has been reissued pretty recently. I can't remember what's on what label, but this is a true gem. I know they're still going. They released an album like last year, I think, or was it maybe 2 years ago? Not really playing the same style, of course, but the track, they made a video for one of the tracks, and that track I kind of like that one, but yeah, not as good as this, unfortunately. But that's how it usually is with older bands making new stuff and trying to evolve, I guess, or de-evolve, if you will. Next up, we have one of my absolute favorite bands, Holy Terror. The US band Holy Terror, and both these albums are amazing. I have to say Mindwars is my favorite, but mostly because I got these almost at the same time, and I just this one caught my ear, so to speak, a bit more, and so I've listened to this more. But I know I have friends who like this Terror and Submission more than Mindwars. So this is the first album, and this is the follow-up. Unfortunately, in 2012, singer Keith Dean died of cancer. So that's it. Kind of ended the story of Holy Terror. And Holy Terror is also a very pretty atypical band in the sense that they are fast and very thrashing, extremely fast actually, some of the tracks, but still has a sense of melody that is very unique, and much of it is due to actually the very original vocals of Keith Dean, who had a way of like, his vocals were like almost like soaring on top of the music, like he was very free in his way of singing, that he like almost like kind of like a jazz kind of way, not being jazz at all, but still like freeform, like almost like finding a way to fit his music, but still putting it, like letting it soar on top of the music, like melodically. And it's very hard to explain, but if you really get into this band, I promise you won't regret it. You have a band for life to love. So that's Holy Terror. Next up, from Holy Terror actually to another holy or unholy band, Holy Moses from Germany, and Holy Moses is one of my all-time favorite bands, thrash bands. Extremely underrated in my opinion, pretty known and respected, but still underrated for some reason. When people talk about like the big Teutonic bands, the big German bands, and they try to like talk about like the Teutonic the big four of Germany, it's usually like Destruction, Sodom, and Crater, which is obviously the three first choices. But then when it comes to the fourth, it's like some people say Tankard, and of course Tankard are very known and a big band, and I love early Tankard, but considering like taking all the different aspects taking them into account, I would actually choose Holy Moses actually, because they were so early and they had such a different style. I mean the debut Queen of Siam is so incredibly fucking raw for being like I think it's from 86 or 85, and of course having a female vocalist, Sabina, and her vocals are almost like inhuman. They're very extreme for being like so early on, and they always have good productions on their albums. They always have like great songs. Of course, not all their records are as great, but these two are two of my favorites. And they are the first one, the debut, and then their second. And the second one, this one is the most ferocious and usually the most appreciated by fans and by metalheads. Finished with the Dogs. And I have to say they're underrated. For some reason, people it's like, I guess they're a bit of an acquired taste, much due to the vocals, I guess. But they are pioneers, no doubt about it. Sabina Klassen is a true pioneer of metal. That's no doubt about it. So check out Holy Moses if you haven't. Next up, we have, you have to excuse my Portuguese, but Ratos de Porão or something like that. Basement Rats or something like that. I think it's with their 1989 album Brasil, and this is my favorite of the Rats records. And it's so funny if you look at the cover and what it tells you. It's still today is very very current. Thinking that Brazil hosted like the World Cup of football or soccer recently, and even more recently the Olympics. So of course this is very political crossover thrash, but very thrashy, very fast, and I think they all are underrated, as a lot of the crossover bands are underrated overall. But sometimes I'm a bit. I'm a bit, when I think about which crossover bands that are really huge and known, I think it's weird because some of the lesser bands are even better in my opinion. And this is a fast ripping, extremely in your face political album, and I love it. They usually recorded all their albums in like two versions, one with Portuguese vocals and one with English vocals, and this is is the English version. I also have their album Anarchophobia, which is a really good one as well. I recommend. They were a punk band from the beginning, but then went more and more. Pretty early went the metal way, so to speak. Still going as well, I think. Next up, we have Wargasm. Wargasm with Why Play Around from 1988 on Profile Records. This is an original. And this is a Boston band, really fast, really ripping, really great songwriting, and lots of intensity. Of course, my favorite track is being the fastest track is the last one on the B-side called Humanoid. Is amazing, but I also like really like Bullets and Blades on the first side there. This is a band that I think, in my opinion, or especially this debut album, would have been bigger if, and this is not criticism at all, but the vocals of Barry Spilling, the vocalist, are kind of limited and kind of like on as I said, Bullets and Blades is a very catchy, like very memorable thrasher, and but still I think sometimes the vocals tend to I mean, I love his vocals, they're great, they're very unpolished and like but still, if they had a different kind of style of vocalist, they would probably have been bigger. But that's of course that's just one of the reasons why bands get big. I mean, there's so much politics going on there, so and shit like that. So, but Wargasm, Why Play Around is an American thrash classic, and you have to get it if you consider yourself a thrasher. Last up, actually a more newer album, Hypnosia, Extreme Hatred. This is the Swedish band Hypnosia. Unfortunately, the band that does not longer exist and were pretty short-lived. They're from the city of Växjö in Sweden. Pretty small city, but have produced some amazing metal bands. And this is a reissue from Hammerheart Records, and I think this was released in like 1999, I think. And this is by far the like most extreme thrash metal album and band that came out like after the Y2K. And it's just so intense that it's hard to describe. They took like the style and the intensity of the most intense bands from the 80s, and then they like turned it up even more. They turned it up to 11, and which seems, when you listen to it, is oh, that's impossible. But if you listen to this, I mean, the title Extreme Hatred is very fitting, but because it's truly a relentless album, and their style is truly relentless, and they unfortunately broke up due to the fact that Mike, the drummer, got sick and finally died in skin cancer. Another great musician that perished due to cancer. I'd like to just say fuck cancer. Yeah, you got the lyrics sheet, and you have to get this album if you think you heard like the most extreme thrash metal that still is like pretty classical thrash metal. And if you haven't heard this album, I say go to it right away. That's all I have to say. Well, this was the part two of the underrated thrash metal video, and I'll make more videos soon. I'll promise you. I feel I'm getting the like. I'm in a like a good moment now, so I'm gonna make some more videos. I promise you. Stay real.